iShine podcast. I am your host, Angela A. Love Lewis. Super excited to be back. I'm telling you guys, y'all know we had a sabbatical a couple of weeks ago. I had a break last week, and so we are back on with a phenomenal guest that you want to hear what she's about to talk about, right? So make sure you go in now, forward that video to everybody you know, every group you know, and let's make sure we get all eyes on the CEO district and my special guest tonight. So listen, I have a special treat because I have none other than Miss Marquita L. Sikes. She has joined me tonight, and listen, she's an empowerment coach, y'all. So y'all know I already love her because I'm all things empowerment, right? So I know she's out here, really getting people motivated and inspired and encouraged to be the best them they can be. But not only that, she's an author. She is someone who is out here making a difference. She's the founder of From Caterpillars to Butterflies. So y'all already know she's out here transforming people's lives, right? So I'm not going to continue to talk because I want her to share a little bit more and kind of go a little bit deeper with that, right? So Marquita, how are you this evening?
I am great, Angela. Thank you. So first of all, before I get started, I just want to say thank you so very much for allowing me to be on iShine podcast. It means so much to me that you'll take the time to allow me to be on your platform. So thank you.
My pleasure.
So a little bit about me and great introduction. I am an empowerment personal development life coach. I started back in 2018, but my life went always about empowerment. Let's get that straight. I came up in a very rough neighborhood. I'm from Kinloch, Missouri. That's in St. Louis, Missouri. And I started drugs. I started alcohol abuse and drug addiction at a very young age, at the age of 12, just to cope with the thoughts of being sexually molested and being raped and being, pushed aside and being abandoned. I found my comfort in drugs. And so at the age of 12, I, started hanging out with the wrong crowd, skipping school, doing whatever I felt like I was big and bad enough to do, until I got to a point in my life that, the scene I was around, it didn't do anything for me anymore. It lost, like, I was in it, but I was not in it. It was almost like I was having an outer body experience. And I end up running to a lady called Big Mama. And at the time, I didn't know her very well, but she would always get the young ladies in the neighborhood and sit them down on her porch and talk to us and tell us that we were great and we were phenomenal. And, God had all these great and wonderful things in store for us. And she always would just take a deep liking to me and was very drawn to me. And I respected her like everyone else, but I felt like, you know what? Big Mama, you don't know what you're talking about. You old, and these streets are fun, and I'm having all the fun in the world going to these clubs and doing all this stuff that I'm doing. I'm having a good time. Until one day I was just riding around and I was, getting high, and I was, just like one of the lowest, most depressing moments of my life. Everyone was, had all the drugs of my choice there, but I was getting high and I went to the bathroom and I looked at myself and I couldn't recognize myself anymore. It was almost like I was looking at a reflection that I couldn't see. I didn't recognize me anymore. And it began to get late and I started drinking, trying to get home. And I don't remember anything other than this, but I take her word for it. She said she found me like passed out on the sidewalk. And what happened when she found me passed out on the sidewalk, she picked me up and she put me in her home. And when I woke up, she said I slept so long. She was really nervous because I just wouldn't wake up.
Wow.
And so finally, when I woke up, she was talking to me and she was telling me, that I need to change my life and that the people I'm hanging around, are no good for me, because she actually dreamed that, I was murdered, that somebody found that she was going to find me, that I was going to be dead. And so she rode around at night looking for me. When she found me, she was scared that I was dead. And so that moment, not too long after that, I had my son a little bit before that, but I was partying and kicking in. I didn't want to be a mother. I was like, just had no sense of responsibility. And she told me something. She was like, you don't have to repeat the cycle that you went through. You have the power to change your circumstances. You have the power to change your life. And so she told me that. And she told me about, I'm sorry, my phone just blacked out. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
She told me that, and she told me about, rehabilitation. I never heard of it. I never heard of being rehabilitated, but she was telling me about this program in the Central West End that, can help save my life, because she was worried that, I wouldn't be alive and that drugs would kill me, and that the life that I was living would ultimately take my life. And so I decided that day, it was in April, to walk into St. Martha's Rehabilitation Center, and I never looked back. I walked in there and I said, I just made my mind up that no matter how long it's going to take, how much I have to give up, how many friends I have to let go, that I'm going to do whatever it takes to put the work into it, because I have a child now, and I have somebody that I don't want to lose, and it meant so much to me, and it saved me. And that's how ultimately the beginning of my caterpillar stage started. And I went through the metamorphosis of being in the cocoon where, you know, um, Angela, I felt isolated. I felt like, I was in church. I did like a 180. So I went all the way out of the world to all the way into the church,
Mm.
because I was just like, I wanted a drastic change, and I wanted something so drastic. And so I just left the world, clubbing, all that stuff. And I went all the way into church, but I became super religious and
So
super
now
judgmental.
let's stop right there. Because I want people to be able to digest kind of what you've said up until this
Yeah.
point. I know that when we initially, connected, you started off and told me about, you said I started experimenting with drugs at the age of 12 to help cope with the rejection I was feeling and to deal with the sexual abuse I endured as a child.
Yes.
That's a lot
Yeah.
at 12 years old to deal with that type of something happening to you that not only traumatizes your body, but it traumatizes your mind. And
Yes.
so for you to be in an environment where people felt like it was okay to give you drugs to help you to cope with that,
Yeah.
that's another thing, because I'm sure people are trying to figure out, like, how were you able to maneuver around, and get access to drugs and get
Yeah.
around and be with people who were willing to supply you, and really fending for yourself.
So with the supplying of the drugs, it came with friends. And also, I did a lot of drugs with my dad. My dad felt like, since I was already doing the drugs, he felt like if he gave me the drugs and did the drugs with me, that I would be safe. He felt like, that would be the better approach to it. And so instead of going out in the streets, I would just go to my father and I would turn to him, and I'd be like, Dad, I wanted some pills or whatever I was asking for at the time. He would go and get it for me, and he would break it down for me. And he would, out the time, I did a little bit of Boyd, and and that's like tar, it's a form of heroin.
Okay.
But I didn't shoot up, but I kind of sniffed it. And
Mhm.
so I would tell him, what I wanted at the time, and he would go get it for me, and he was call himself watching me because he felt like that was the better way to doing it. And when I wasn't getting high with him, I was getting high with, my peers that family sold drugs and dad sold drugs, and I had an uncle that was a big time drug dealer. So it was always uh it was always around me. It was always
Right,
in my
right.
environment. And so seeing a lot of drugs on the table, or seeing, a bowl full of, cocaine or whatever it was never a shock to me, because
Mhm.
I was always around that type of environment, so it was never,
Right.
really, it wasn't really hard to get access to it.
Okay, okay. So even with that being said, so now you've had the sexual trauma, and now your dad is feeling like, okay, well, she's already done it, so I might as well make sure if she's going to do it, it's going to be as a safer environment, and at least I know what she's got, and it's going to be better. But you said that I turned to drugs to help quiet my mind. And
Yes.
that's so huge, because you said that I could never rest. I always felt like I was misplaced and unwanted. And
Yes.
that's so big before a lot of people, I'm sure, when people try to think about, why do people get on drugs or why do they stay on drugs?
Hmm.
That's so powerful to say that you turn to drugs to keep your mind quiet.
Yes. Well, when you trauma does something to you that if you never experienced, you really can't understand. You always relive it in your mind. And so every time I would close my eyes or I would get a moment to myself, I would think about the sexual abuse. I would think about being tore away from my mom. I would think about watching my mom being beat and watch her doing drugs. And so, in order to just take my mind away for a second, just to have a moment of pleasure, I would, indulge in drugs. It kind of like helped me not to think about any type of responsibility or anything that was happening in my current life, whether it was something that I brought on myself, or whether it was something in my past. Drugs help wipe it out of my mind for just a second and help me to be able to just have a clear train of thought. And I didn't always think about, the trauma and what I didn't have and what I was going through. It kind of was like my scapegoat.
Yes, yes. And I have a friend, Valerie, she always says that childhood trauma leads
Hmm.
to adult drama. And
Yes.
so, for you, even with still being young and still meeting your, what I would probably say, a guardian angel, to be
Yeah.
able to have God speak to her in a dream to come and say, I dreamed that you would be murdered. And so for you to come off the streets and want to be a mother, because you think with all the drugs, with all the things that you experienced, for someone, they may have felt like, okay, well, I'm not going to be a mother. I'm just going to abort this child, or I'm going to leave this child somewhere and continue to live my life like I am.
Hmm.
But for you, it was important that you become a mother to your child
Hmm.
and get into a program to help you get off of the drugs. And now, is that the catalyst that led you into becoming a life coach?
Yes, definitely. Seeing, and even when I was in the midst of, being in the program, you know, the women in there would come to me and I would never like, why are they come to talking to me? I mean, I don't have anything. I'm on drugs like y'all are. I mean, I have to take this one moment at a time, one day at a time, like the rest of their, like everybody else. And so they would come to me and they would ask me advice and they would ask me, what do you think I should do about this? And what do you think I should do about that? And so those women that was in there with me, we would have really deep discussions and we would talk about things that they didn't want to open up to, the counselors about when we were in group. And they would tell me things, how they mom, watched their father rape them and how they had, and just horrific things that they would tell me and tell me about. And I would sit there and I would take it in and they would like sit there and they would just like cry and kind of get it all out. And I just was just like, I wouldn't have no idea. I never had no idea what a life coach was, but those are kind of like my first clients. And,
Yeah.
and they would come and tell me things and I would just like try in the best of my ability, help them. And by helping them, I helped myself because I saw, life was bigger than just me and what was happening in my world and what was happening in my life. That, it was other people that, by, you know, focusing in on what they were going through, it helped keep me just one more minute because in group they tell you to take it minute by minute, second by second, day by day. Every minute that you can overcome your addiction, it's a minute to celebrate. And by helping those women, it kept me focused because it kept my mind off of, I wonder what my friends are doing right now. It's 8 o'clock. I bet you they out there getting what, because it's really tempting to, when you right when you're in the city that you can get it wherever you want to get it from and you know how to get it and you're in a situation where you're trying to stay clean and force yourself to stay clean and it's like God put those women there to distract me so I can continue to stay clean and continue to stay encouraged to go on about my journey.
Powerful in that the very people that you're around that sometimes could help you to get back into it because they're telling you things that's familiar when
Yeah.
you're thinking about having sexual trauma and someone else is sharing their sexual trauma.
Yeah.
It's like you understood because you've been there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, God put inside of you something that allowed you to say, okay, let me use this. And hey, P. Angela, hey, Keisha, thanks so much, ladies, for joining in tonight. But God allowed you to be able to listen to them and give them a word to help them, which in turn help you to not turn back to drugs. And
Yes.
so you said that that was like starting into your caterpillar phase. And
Mhm.
so now your program is from caterpillars to butterflies.
So yes, it's caterpillars to butterflies. And so in that stage, when I walked into, the rehabilitation center, St. Martha's, I could say that my drug use stages were my caterpillar stages, where I
Mhm.
was just like eating, I was doing things, but it wasn't really my true self. And so when I was going through and I was in that type of environment, I never felt like I belonged in that environment either. It was just that was just the environment that accepted me, that
Mhm.
allowed me to do what I felt like I wanted to do. I because at home I had to live a certain structure or do a certain thing with my grandmother, because she wanted to go to church and I wasn't ready for that, at that time. So drugs in my caterpillar stage, that was my era, I say, before Christ.
Mhm.
When I walked into the rehabilitation center, that was my caterpillar stage, because I felt, like I said, I was getting myself together, but I felt very isolated. I
Yeah.
felt very alone again. I had
Mhm.
to really deal with my feelings, and that was something I was always scared to do.
Yeah.
And that's, I was always scared to to confront me and the
Mhm.
things that I did, that some things I caused and some things that happened to me that I didn't cause, right? And so being in that rehabilitation center was like my cocoon stage, because I felt myself transforming. Because, drug addicts, in a way, we develop a very narcissistic, I can't say the word, but narcissist,
Narcissistic. Mhm.
right, personality, that kind of happens and it's not like we try to be a narcissist, but it happens because all we care about at that moment is fulfilling the drugs and fulfilling our needs. It's about me, myself, and I. That's why I can steal from my grandma, I can steal from my mama, I can steal from my daddy, I can leave my kids somewhere, and it doesn't matter to me, because they are not part of my world. I'm my world, and my drug use is my world, right?
Ooh,
But
but
when
that's a great thing to tell people, because people probably don't even, for people who have not been on that side of things,
Mhm,
trying to understand how can people do that.
mhm,
That's great that you can kind of tie it in and say it becomes like being a narcissist, that it's
mhm,
all about you.
it
So
is.
it's never really about, my grandmother and I stole from her, or my kid,
Mhm.
because it's about that next high and what you need to do to get to it.
Yes,
And that's a great way, hopefully, for someone who is maybe dealing with someone who is currently, on drugs or have experienced it. Hopefully, what Marquita has said is kind of giving you a little insight, because so many people, wonder, how do you get so caught up, or how do you,
yeah.
go to those extremes? But that really kind of
Mhm.
gave a great perspective that is really not about anybody or anything but you at that
It-
time, what you're trying to get and what you feel like you need to satisfy whatever it is inside of you.
yes, definitely. Um, I would say that when you're thinking about drug addiction, and you think about air, or you think about eating, drug is right up there with air. It's right up there with food.
Wow.
You can't tell me not to breathe. That's like when you tell a drug addict not to use drugs, you tell them not to breathe.
Mm.
When their mind is wrapped up in this addiction, you're telling me not to live my life. You're telling me not to eat, because I would rather at that time to do drugs than to eat. I would go days without eating. It didn't matter to me as long as I was getting high. It didn't care. I didn't care. So it was more important than food. It was more important than my family. It was more important than anything in my life. This
Mm.
thing that I had going on with this addiction was I was in a relationship with it.
Yeah.
I was in a
Yeah.
relationship with it, and I was committed to it. So
That's powerful. I mean, somebody wisdom works truth said, honey, good information. And I think it is, because, a lot of times when you're trying to help people, because I think we all have had somebody, in your family or a good friend or someone that has been on drugs, and you're trying to figure out how can I help. And when you don't understand how it's that important, nobody thinks that, oh, it can't be more important than air or food or water. You know what I'm saying? We're thinking surely it's not that serious, but in your mind at that time, it absolutely is.
It
And
is.
so even with you wanting to take care of your child, still allowing yourself to get back connected can be the pull that will allow you to still be able to leave your child
Yes.
and want to go ahead and get that fixed.
Yes, definitely. And so just to be able to, and that's part of my caterpillars to butterflies. I also work with families who have loved ones that's battling drug and alcohol addiction, because I try to get them to understand that, yeah, the person you love is still in there, right? We're not just addiction and all addiction. We're still in there, right? You just got to find out how to reach that person.
Yeah.
And you have to learn how to reach that person in a different way without making us feel like we're addict. Because we already know that we're addict. We already know we have a problem that we can't that we have an issue with, right? We realize that every person that's on drugs or ever had an addiction already know that we have a problem that we're powerless to overcome. So you reminding us that we have this problem is not going to help us solve the problem. As a matter of fact, we're going to use that you keep badgering us that we're addicted to this thing to go get the thing that you're talking about. Because now I may have wanted to not use, but since you're talking about how much of an addict I am and how big of a drug addict I am and how big of an alcoholic I am, I just might go ahead and do it again. And that's why I said narcissism.
It is, but that's so crazy to me. Wisdom works is like, wow, yes, absolutely. But you said something key there, because people are so accusing you of the thing that you really probably, inside, deep down inside, want to get out of. It's the same way, when people say, well, you accuse me of cheating, so you keep on accusing me, I might as well go out and do it. It's something about the human way we handle things, that the very thing that someone tells you is who you are, is who you become more of.
And that's why I learned in there we learned how to almost the power of our thoughts. When you're trying to quit drugs, right? You have to restructure your life. So if I used to ride down, so if Natural Bridge and Kings Highway is a trigger for me, but my grandmama stay over that way, I have to learn how to get to my grandma's house without going down Natural Bridge. You know what I'm saying? I had to cut off, and at the time, I couldn't have a pager. I had to get rid of my pager. I couldn't keep change in my pocket because it was an urge. Because I used to keep change in my pocket to call my, what you got going on. So I had to restructure everything about my day, right? I had to find new things to do in order to occupy my time. So instead of going down to the city where all my friends was, who I used to get high with, I would find myself going to the county or going to the library or doing something like totally restructuring myself. And that's another thing when you're trying to help someone. I don't know why God is leading me. Maybe somebody on here that needs to hear this. When you're trying to help someone beat addiction, help them restructure their day. If they are used to doing something every single day and it led them down to a road of addiction, say for instance, you see a person that you're trying to help and you notice that every first of the month they do things in this order. You need to interrupt that. Interrupt their plans. Hey, I got some things. Even if you don't have anything planned, come and ride with me. Occupy their mind, occupy their time, get them out of their routine, because that's how you overcome their thoughts. Because the sensation starts here. You think about it. Man, I got all this money in my pocket. I want to get high. You think about it first. The next thing you know, you're picking up your phone. You're making a connection. The next thing you know, you put on your shoes. You're getting dressed. You're heading out the door. When you see triggers, and it's absolutely very vital, and it's important that you learn your spouse triggers. We all have triggers still to this day. I don't take it for granted that I'm almost celebrating 17 years clean. I don't take it for granted at all, because I've seen people celebrate longer and fall back into addiction. So I tell my spouse my triggers. I let my husband know, this is my triggers. This what triggers me. This is what gets me going. Help me. Because every day you fight this thing. It's never a day that goes by that I don't feel like I arrived, right? I don't
Right.
feel like I made it. I don't feel like I overcame or I'm so great. No, I realize that it is minute by minute, second by second, hour by hour. And I protect my sobriety, and I protect my years. I protect my clean. I protect it with everything in me. And when a situation
Yes.
come up that's going to compromise my sobriety and compromise
Mhm.
me and make me trigger, I get rid of it. I cut it off.
I'm glad you said that. I see Wisdom Works True says, as a full-time senior pastor, I'm learning to be able to help someone struggling with addiction. And that's good. And what you're saying, and what I hear you saying, is that it's really subconsciously,
Mhm.
it's always wanting to go back to do what's familiar. Your
Yes.
subconscious, that's just like how, people sometimes, you'll be doing something, or talking on the phone or doing something, and you look up and you're like, oh, dang, I don't even remember how I got home. I just, I was talking or whatever and didn't even realize it, because your subconscious already knew the way home. So it just took over even
Yes.
while you were doing something else. Well, when you always go down a pathway of doing something, like you
Hmm.
said, if I see a certain street, if that's where I know I used to get
Hmm.
pleasured and have a good time, then
Hmm.
my subconscious is like, okay, this is where we need to go, because this is what we were used to doing for so long. So I'm so glad that you're giving that tip about, break that up, change that pattern,
Hmm.
switch it up, so that your subconscious no longer automatically wants to go this way all the time,
Yes.
and definitely about the triggers, because I think that's really important. And I mean, for anybody, drugs or not, triggers can definitely cause you to
Hmm.
get back into the same patterns,
Yes.
whatever that is, and so you want to make sure that you know what your triggers are. And some people don't, they get around things, and they just don't pay attention to the sign of, yeah, that's something that I just can't be around, or can't deal with, or can't whatever. And a
Hmm.
lot of times we try to make ourselves think that we're stronger than we are in some areas. And like you say, you got to know yourself.
Hmm.
You got to know yourself.
I remember something so clearly to this day. I ran into an old friend that I used to get high with, and I thought that I was strong. I'm like, oh my goodness, I got this together. The
Mhm.
very moment I stepped into the car with her, she started rolling up. She started smoking. She started passing to me. I started smoking. Next thing you know, I was just like, I can't go around her. No matter how, it's certain people in your life that you want a part of your story. They just can't be. They
Yeah.
can't be a part of your story. It's if they become part of your story, they drag you down. And I noticed that even though
Mhm.
I wasn't around her all these years, we had time apart. I was doing things much better. I was in a better headspace. I had things going on in my life. The very moment I stepped in the car with her again, I fell back into that same mode. I had to make my mind up that even though it's not personal, it's personal, because I can't be around you. And it's certain things that I just choose not to go to. It's certain environments I choose not to indulge myself or put my presence into, because I understand that I got something I need to protect. I got things to lose. And it's
Mhm.
more important than having a good time right now. And so in that caterpillar stage, it's where I grew the most. Coming from being a narcissist to actually caring about other people, that's what God was showing me. When I
Mhm.
took my mind off of myself and I put my mind onto those women and their situation. I remember one woman I helped in there, and she lost her kids. And I didn't know how I came up with this advice with helping her, right? But I started talking to her, and I told her the steps that was kind of sharing with me, because I grew up in foster care, and I talked to my case manager a lot at the time. Her name was Tracy. And she said, well, if your mom want to get you back, she gonna have to do these steps. Bam, 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 right? And so that came back. I didn't know I remembered that. And so when I was talking to her, I said, you need to go and talk to the case manager and figure out what steps you need to take in order to get your kids back. And and it was years later I ran into her. I think I ran into her at a Walmart, and she had her kids, and she hugged me, and she started crying. I'm getting emotional thinking about it. And she hugged me, and she started crying, and she said, thank you. She said, thank you. She said, my son, they all with me now. I got my own place, and I'm clean, and I live a clean lifestyle still. And, it's just like to see her accomplish something like to other people seems so small, but she wanted her children. And it was something that was locked up in my subconscious, and I gave it to her, and I didn't even know if it was going to work or not. But seeing the results and seeing your work happen years down the road, you may not be there to see the whole journey. That's for somebody. You may not be there to see the whole journey. But one thing about God, when it's meant for you to see it, He gonna bring it back to pass. And I just happened to go to Walmart that one day and run into this lady, and I didn't even recognize her. She recognized me, and she hugged me, and she said, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. These are my kids. Years later, see, I learned that people will never forget how you made them feel.
True.
And when she hugged me, she had to almost remind me, we was in St. Martha's together, and you told me how to do, you told me, I stopped running from the case manager. I owned up to my things. I got myself together. I got a good paying job now. She started telling me everything that I missed in the midst of her journey. She called me up with it. And I told her, now go give it to somebody else.
That's good.
That's what it's about.
That's good.
It's not just about you now. Now, the same thing you learned, go give it to somebody else. And that's what I believe in. I believe in keeping the door open and giving it to somebody else. This is not just caterpillars and butterflies don't belong to Marquita. I'm just a visionary that it was birthed through. But caterpillars and butterflies is all of us. It belongs to all of us. Transformation, empowerment belongs to all of us. It's just up to us to decide when we're going to want and make that change.
Again, it's about, you got to make that decision. You got to choose what's better for you. And not the same old thing over and over again. Because again, that's the definition of insanity, is when you expect different results from the same thing that you're doing. And so you got to figure out what's more, what's out there, what's better, and make that choice to choose to say that I'd rather be here than here. I'd rather do this than that. And when it becomes more important to you, then you'll make that choice. And for a lot of people, it's so hard. And for you, being able to give back. And that's one of the things that you said, when you reached out to me, is that I want to be able to be in a position to give back to somebody else. Like the lady that helped you was able to tell you, come on, let me help you get out the streets, off of drugs, take care of your child, and get into a better life. And I love that you have did this whole switch to say that, yes, I was here, but now I'm over here, and I'm trying to give back and do better. And I'm trying to help other people who may not have someone to help them, give them a helping hand so that they can transform from being in that caterpillar, from being the caterpillar to becoming the butterfly. And that's beautiful. So tell me about this book that you wrote, Rescued, and it's Rescued: My Story of Betrayal and Survival.
Yes, definitely. This is I'm a first-time author.
Yay!
And so this powerful book takes you through trauma, but it also gives you snippets on how to, find yourself in the, it kind of like, let me see, how can I word this book? You read about my life, but it's also helping you to unwrap your life and help you with your trauma. So in the book, I have a session in here where you can write your thoughts down, from each chapter. I have scripture in here. So because it's not enough to tell you about trauma. It's not it. I want to help you overcome your trauma. And I
Mm,
want you to see your trauma. I want you to face your trauma. I want you to overcome your trauma. And this book was designed to do that. I believe in this life, and I think that prayer is wonderful, but it takes God and people, right? It takes
mhm,
God and it takes humans, right? So yes, we can pray about it, but until we do the work, right? Until we actually do the work to deal with our subconscious, because a lot of times, Angela, we spend too much time on the conscious, and the subconscious is where you lie. You're
mhm,
more subconscious than you are conscious. And
mhm,
this is getting down to your subconscious. This is
mm,
telling you how to get down and break down the barriers in your subconscious. This is telling you how to recognize trauma and overcome trauma in your subconscious, not dealing with the conscious. And that's why I said rescue, my story of betrayal and survival. Because not only, yes, I dealt with the betrayal part, right? I dealt with that, but guess what? I was rescued and I survived it. And I want to help you do the same. And that's
yes.
finding that, yes.
I love it. I love it. I love it because, it's so hard when you go through life and at 12 years old to be
Mhm.
sexually traumatized and then to, turn to drugs and to be in foster care and to feel unwanted and, you know, not know what your future is going to look like, to
Mhm.
take all of that.
Mhm.
Because sometimes what happens to us is really not for us, is to be able to help the next person. And
Yeah.
so it's such a beautiful thing that you have taken all of the things that have happened to you to turn around and be able to help someone else to go through their life and then transform to be even better and to write the story. I know, how hard was that for you? Because I know that I'm a publisher and I get a lot of people, we read their stories and things, and they give me different feedback. For some people, it's like opening up a whole new wound and they're crying every day as they're reading and thinking about all the things they went through. So what about you? What was that experience like?
It was one chapter that I remember really writing it, and it was about my dad. It's called Daddy's Home. It's the name of this chapter.
Mm,
And I remember I was a young girl, and my father came and picked me up because my father was in and out of my life. And I was driving in the car, and it's the song came on by Heatwave. It's called Always and Forever.
mhm,
And I remember that song coming on the radio, and I looked up at my dad, and it was like, always and forever. It's like I will always love you. Some of the words in it, and I was looking at my dad, and I just had, and when I go back and I was writing that chapter, I saw myself right back in that car with him, and the tears start streaming down my face, and I just looked up at my dad and said, because I just wanted you, Dad. I just wanted you, and you just couldn't see it. You couldn't see how bad I wanted you, and how I just wanted you to love me, and I wanted that father and daughter relationship with you. And writing that chapter really helped me to release a lot of things that I was stuffing about my relationship with my father, you know. And I was sitting there and I was like looking at my husband, and I was like, I'm just angry that, I couldn't have that relationship like he had with his kids, and like my daughter have the chance of having a father in her life. And I'm like, I was just so mad. I said, didn't I deserve a dad? Why didn't I have a father? And I was just so upset. I started crying. But and I mean, Angela, tears thick as fog. I couldn't even just get through it. But after I wrote that chapter, it was something in me, and I heard these words: "It's finished.
mm,
It's finished."
wow.
That chapter really pushed out a lot in me,
Yeah.
because I really understood myself at that moment, and it healed the little girl inside of me, and it really did something. So I can say this book, it rescued me all over again. I read it
Mm,
myself, and I didn't and to read your story after it's been published, it's like, man, wow. I didn't even really feel like I was going through all that. But when you see it in black and white, and when you see it on paper, it
Yes.
takes your mind to a different place.
Yes.
So this book empowered me. This book set me free. And if I would say any word, it really further pushed me into my butterfly stage.
Mm. That's powerful. And I always say, like I said, being the publisher of A&M Publishing and Productions, we deal with a lot of people that, particularly with anthologies, we have different things and we have, people write on their certain topics, but I believe everyone has a story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what you think it is, to tell your story, somebody can get something out of it. And for so many of us, we as children were told to, what goes on in this house stays in this house, or,
Yeah.
children are supposed to be seen and not heard. And so you don't go out and tell your business. And so nobody really knows. But when you do that, you're suffering inside. And I don't care how far you push it down, at some point, it's going to bubble up on the surface. And then it's going to cause problems with your relationships, or, in your jobs, or with your own children. It'll
Mm-hmm.
cause problems because you never really dealt with that. You just pushed it down
Mm-hmm.
because you felt like nobody's going to believe you. Nobody wants to hear it. Or if they did, what are they going to do? And so being able to write out your story and share with somebody, it's so much power in that. It's
Yeah.
so much release in that. And I'm glad just the fact that you were able to hear is finished, to
Yeah.
realize that, okay, so now I can breathe a little bit now.
Mm-hmm.
I can walk a little lighter now because I've been able to release that. And I think, like you say, you wrote Rescued for someone else, but Rescued really rescued you.
Yeah, it did. It
Is
did
that not?
rescue me all over again, and it was like, just different chapters in the book. It's just like I see myself in each. It's a story about me, but I see myself in those places as I was writing each one of those chapters I was writing. And I would say definitely, everyone, Angela, I agree with you, have a story. Don't go to the grave with your story. I just feel that so strongly to say that. I listened to Miles Monroe, and he said something so powerful. He said the graveyard is the most expensive place.
Yes.
And so when he said that, he said, leave here empty. When I'm long gone, rescue is going to be here.
Mm-hmm.
When you're long gone, your story is going to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's going to pick up this story, this book 50, 70, 200 years later, and read your story and know that you were here and this is what happened and this is where you overcame it. So that's why I say writing is so powerful. It helps you to leave your mark.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I say, if you don't hesitate. Don't hesitate to write the book. I was afraid because I was a first time author, but
Mm-hmm.
once I, had to pray about, releasing my manuscript to someone, and I was scared because, when you write, you're sensitive. You don't want to hear the
Yeah, exactly. That
you're
is so true.
And so, but when I saw it and I got my first 12 copies, I was like, wow. I'm so like in awe and just so grateful that long after I'm no longer here, rescue would be here. And I pray that it continues to rescue people many years from now. Even the people that I won't even see, I pray that it rescues them. So
So
that
powerful. So powerful. And I'm so grateful to you for reaching out, because I will say this. A lot of times, and thank you. I believe Jamel put the site up there. So thank you for reaching out, putting that information out here. It's so wonderful for you, because a lot of first time authors, they don't really know, what to do. But you got to reach out. You've got to put yourself in position. She reached out and said, I'm interested in being on the podcast. And you shared a part of your story. And you told me about, the book that you wrote and what you're trying to do to go back and help other people.
Mhm.
When you're writing books, when you have that, when you're trying to get your business, to get that visibility, you've got to reach out. You've got to connect with people. You've got to be come unafraid to share who you are and to tell your story over and over and over again. It doesn't stop with just writing a book. Now you've got to go out and promote it and market it and get the word out, because again, somebody's waiting to be rescued and they don't even know it. All they know is that they're listening to you today talking about being in an abusive relationship and sexually traumatized at the age of 12 and turning to drugs. And that's something that people want to hear about. And then you talk about caterpillar to butterflies, and somebody maybe can resonate with that. But when they go and say, okay, well, I'm going to check this book out, they may not even know that they need to be rescued until they read your book.
Yes.
And there's something in there that's going to unlock something inside of them to
Yes.
be able to overcome, so that they too can say it's finished.
Yes. You better say that. Yes. Yes. Say that. Woo, I felt that all the way down in the inside of me. Yes. That is it.
I'm glad.
True. I mean, go to Amazon. You can find it on Amazon. You can Google my name, Marquita L. Sikes. It's on Amazon. I have a couple more copies left here on hand. If you like an autographed copy for me, just definitely. I've never been. It's so funny, Angela. God took me from um my world where I was the main character to now. I don't do this to be seen. I don't care about the likes. I don't care about the notoriety. I have a passion. I love people. I have a passion for humanity. I have a passion about empowering people. I don't care where you came from, what situation you came out of. I know what it's like to eat out of trash cans. I know what it's like to sleep in cars. I know what it's like to your family to reject you. I know what it's like for your daddy to beat you. I know what it's like to love somebody and they spit on you and call you out the name. I've been. It's just like, but in all those things, God was there. And I can't. I know. I'm not trying to make it super religious, but it is what it is. I can't say it any other way. I can't really. I'm not here to convert anybody. Whatever. If this it's time. If you don't like what I'm saying, it's time. Just just slip the channel. I have to give honor where honor is due.
Yes.
Each time I was picked up and dropped, God was there.
Oh.
Each one of those chapters where people came into my life and they told me, Marquita, I'm going to be your friend to the end, because that's all I wanted. I wanted someone to accept me and love me so bad and like me and care about me and hug me and just, accept Marquita. They'll come in and they say, oh, I'm your friend to the end, and they'll lift me up and they'll drop me behind the refrigerator. And I found myself being lifted up and dropped all my life. But in each one of those drops, I saw God. I became closer to God each time, and each and every time someone picked me up and dropped me, it's like God was really pouring into me even more. He was revealing himself even more to me. And that's what I want to leave with you on today. I don't care how you started out. You're looking at somebody that when people used to pray for me, I would curse them out and I would tell them I don't believe in your God, just really belligerent, calling on demons, all kind of stuff. God still was there. That blew my mind, Angela. God was still there.
Wow.
Each one of those moments in my life, God was there. And so I don't care how you started off. I want you to understand that right in the midst of that story, there's God. Right in the midst of that storm, there's God. We just have to learn how not to see him in one way. He's a multi-dimensional God.
Yes.
He's multi-dimensional.
Oh.
He doesn't come to you all in the same way every time. The first time I was introduced to God, I saw him on a picture in my grandma's house. Then I was introduced to him another way. Each time I was introduced, he revealed something different about himself. But if we try to keep him in a box and only look for him to come on a cloud or in a Rolls Royce, you're going to miss the hobo on the corner that got the wisdom. And that's where I learned that I learned things being homeless. I learned things in abuse. I learned things being 3 times divorced. I learned how to be a wife, being a divorcee. So what I'm saying, I don't care about how you started off. What matters is you see God and you don't give up. Your story is not over until you hear it is finished.
Yeah.
You have the power to change your circumstances each and every day. Wholeheartedly believe that. I would never have thought in a million years I would be up here quoting Bible scriptures, talking about God, writing a book with being a life coach. That was not the plans that I had for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But according to Jeremiah, he said that I know the plans.
Yes.
He knows the plans, right? And
Yes.
so my mind, my will lined up with his, and that's what you see before you this day. And I'm grateful for it. And I'm not afraid to ask, hey, because I don't want to be the best kept secret. I'm gonna yell, hey, Angela, please let me on your platform. I see you have a great platform. I want to just graze my face on your platform for a second because somebody needs to hear this. And I will continue to do that each and every time I get the opportunity with whoever. Because I want
Yes.
to leave her empty. Because I believe that you should leave here empty. And what you have on the inside of you is not for you, it's for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
That
Beautiful. Oh my God. I have so enjoyed you, Marquita. I really love, just understanding that in the midst, like you said, no matter what it looks like, no matter what it feels like, God
hmm
is always there,
hmm
and you have to learn how to see him. And when you
hmm
talk about going from a caterpillar to a butterfly, you got to learn how to see him when you're in the cocoon, when you're
Yes.
going through the caterpillar phase, and then when you become a butterfly. It's always different things, and he shows up in different ways, and you just got to be ready. You got to pay attention and recognize it when you see it. And it's so beautiful because you could have given up at any point in time, but even when you were getting sexual abuse at 12, even when you were on drugs, even when your dad was out getting it for you and you turned around and looked at him and was like, I want to have a relationship. I want something better than what we've had.
hmm
Even when you continue to move on, and like you say, you learn to be a wife inside in the midst of being divorced.
hmm
People don't get the lessons, and there's always lessons. Sometimes people want to say that you have failures. It's not failures if you learn something,
Come
because when
on.
you learn something, you can take that and apply it and make it better. See, what you do is you figure out what not to do so that you can turn around and be better as you move forward. And
Yeah.
so, honey, this has rescued somebody. And guys, I'm telling you, on the screen going across, I have Marquita's www.caterpillars2butterflies.com. I believe also they put on here your Facebook page. So I'm going to put that on the screen. Coach Marquita Sikes. And then, of course, her IG page, follow her there. But y'all follow her and then go. She said Amazon was where her book is at. Go and look that up, because I'm telling you, sometimes you don't know what you need, but it's something about what you said that may have just tapped somebody, and they may have been like, you know what? Let me just get the book and see what it's about or whatever, and then you might set the book down and not read it to 2023 and pick it up in June 12th of 2023 and start reading it and be like, oh my God, this is exactly what I needed, because God, what they say, he may not come when you want him to, but he's always right on time. And
Yeah.
so this word right here is a seed for somebody, because like you said, I don't know why I'm staying on here on how to identify and really help people who are on who are addicted to drugs,
hmm
but giving them those tips could have really saved somebody, could have
Yeah.
really helped somebody, help someone who they love to come off of drugs, to know that I got to interrupt your day
Yes.
to day,
hmm
you
Yes.
know.
Yes. Yes. All that. It was a pleasure. I hope I know this won't be my last time, being I shine, you know. I really enjoyed myself, and it was so natural talking to you. It was like talking to a good friend, and you my sister girl now,
Yes.
yes. So definitely, guys, don't be the best kept secret. Reach out. If you got something to tell the world, don't be afraid to reach out.
Mhm.
All those no's, it was a lot of people that told me no, but guess what? I got a yes, you know, and that's what matters.
That's what
So
matters.
That's what matters.
Because sometimes what they say, no is not always no. Sometimes no is not now, but you can't let that stop you. You got to continue to push. And as the Wisdom Works Truth said, thank you so much, Marquita, for the invitation for this live stream. I truly enjoy you and Angela. Blessings. Thank you, Wisdom Works Truth. We appreciate you being on here. For everyone else who tuned in, again, this has been an amazing conversation, Marquita. And you are absolutely right. It won't be the last. I know we can collaborate and do a lot of things. I'm an empowerment speaker and coaching, and that you do the same. So yes, it's some people out here who need to be rescued, whether they believe it or not. And it's work to be done. And like you said, my friend Monica says, I was talking about, not wanting to leave here empty. I'm wanting to leave here empty. And she was like, yes, empty of the excellence he gave you. And I thought that was so amazing. It is something to strive for, that God has given us so much, and when you said about Dr. Miles Monroe, I already knew. I was like, yes, honey, we're going to be very good connected sisters. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. Do you want to leave the audience with anything else before we leave?
You know what? Never go a day without talking to God. Believe me, start your day off with him and end your night with him. Always find time to talk to God. Again, I am looking for, speaking engagements. If you know someone or looking at a church service that, is looking for a powerful impactor speaker, please don't hesitate to reach out to Sikes Management. The phone number is 214-946-0291. We are definitely looking to travel. I don't mind traveling because I just believe that God is going to just make me booking busy, and I just claim it right now. So, again, thank you again to iShine. Thank you again to you, Angela, for allowing me to, take the time to speak on your platform. I take you, with pride and stride, and I pray that I did some justice on your platform. And God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. You absolutely did. I'm so appreciative. And I will ask you one thing, if you would, getting off the broadcast, if you would go back in, the information you gave and the phone number, just put it in the comments. So if anybody catches the replay, they will be able to have that if they want to reach out to you and book you. And y'all trust and believe that this is just a small snippet of what she has inside. And so I think that it's so many people, whether you were sexually abused, whether you were on drugs or whether you've been through some other type of trauma, Marquita can have a word for you. It's something for you to learn throughout that process. And I think she's the person that can definitely give it. So, I'm going to go ahead and put my stamp of approval on there because it's been a pleasure and I really enjoyed it. So we will be in touch because, again, it's going to be some more things that I know we're going to be able to work and do some things together. So it was a pleasure. So, guys, listen, y'all make sure if you do the replay, hit #replay so we know that you saw it. Please reach out. Go purchase her book. It's Rescued, My Story of Betrayal and Survival. And trust, if you don't think it's for you, maybe give it as a gift to somebody else, because I know that their deliverance will be inside of those pages. So y'all have a blessed night. Thank you again. We will talk to you next Thursday. Marquita, if you will stay on for a moment once we end the broadcast.
Okay.
All right. Y'all take care.